Coming to you live from the shadow of the big house, it's IT4U. Tips and tricks on ITS tools, products, services, and more with your host, Gene Mackey. Hey, good morning everybody, and welcome to IT4U. I'm your host, Gene Mackey. It's a series of interactive webinars brought to you by Information and Technology Services. So if you're having any audio or video problems during the live webinar, let us know in the chat pod, and if it's not on our end, we can offer some tips. It is possible to participate in these webinars on your smartphone or tablet, and here's some links for that. And we're going to take a break in August, and we'll be back in September with an M+Box topic. I don't have a date for that yet. And if you do need an accommodation to participate, please let us know. If it's for the live session, we need 10 days, business days notice. Today we've got Ryan Viss from ITS. He's going to be talking about integrating tools with Google Sites. And this is something that was requested by people in the last Google webinar, so I hope this will be useful to you. And without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having Gene and the IT4U staff. Always fun to have requests to talk about things that people are interested in right from the get-go. So today we're going to be talking about integrating other tools with Google Sites. For those of you who aren't familiar with Google Sites is one of our core apps covered by our agreement with Google. So all of the data in Sites is our data protected by a contract. It is not archived or mined for advertising purposes or anything like that. And if you do have folks who are core only, they are able to use your site as well. Google Sites is a general purpose, what you see, what you get, editor-based web page creation tool. If you need a very quick and dirty website for a project or a team or maybe just for yourself to organize all of the things that you have going on, Google Sites is a great tool for doing those kinds of things. Google Sites has a couple of interesting features, one of which is that it allows for multiple owners. If you're familiar with Google Drive, documents only allow one owner per document. Sites is a little bit different. You can have as many owners as you want. That's really nice if you have shared accounts or you have a team that is highly in flux. If you have a project team where lots of people are rolling on and off, you can make them owners, you can take them off easily, and have that continuity. Excuse me. Google Sites have a few accessibility issues. We've documented them at the URL you see on your screen. That's on our google.umich site. You can also just search for site accessibility on our site, and you'll land on that page. Just keep that in mind if you have folks. This is going to a wide audience. Be sure to address some of those accessibility issues. Be mindful of all of those kinds of things. So why would you use Sites? Like I mentioned, it's a quick and easy way to organize information and create a website. We also now can alias domains within the umich domain. So for instance, if you have a .it.umich.edu site or a lsa.umich.edu site, we can get rid of that long sites.google/a/umich gobbledygook that comes at the end of a URL like that, and alias it to something that you hear. What we can't do is alias it to a non-umich.edu URL. So supercoolsite.com, yourvanitysite.net will not work. It has to be inside the umich domain. There are folks doing it on campus. I would highly recommend looking into it, talking to your local IT or webmaster. Question?
Just what's the definition of an alias? What's the alias?
Oh, to alias. So for instance, when you create a Google site, and you'll see this as we do the demo later on, the URL that you'll get is based in sites.google.com/a/umich.edu, and then anything after that is the unique URL for a particular site. As you start creating pages, and maybe you're into the second or third page in your site, that URL can be very, very long, and it also has that google.com based into it. So if you want something that's a little bit more umich branded and you have the ability to get or create LSA or .umich, we can essentially redirect your umich.edu URL. Okay, sorry about that. A couple technical hiccups around here. I'm going to assume we got through the alias part. If there's a question still about aliases, please. Okay, we did. Perfect. So we'll start here, and I apologize for any repeating. We'll move quickly along. Today is going to be mostly demos. We're going to be live inside the site, putting embeds and all those kinds of things into an actual site. You'll have access to the site during this live demo in a view-only mode. When we're done, I will unlock that site into an edit mode. I highly encourage you to make a copy of the site we work with today to have your own personal sandbox. All the things that you see during the demo will be there if you make a copy of the site. And you can delete and add and play with it as you will without any fear of messing up with any project sites you may be a part of. Today specifically, I'm going to cover 4 areas. These were based on requests for this IT4U. We're going to be talking about how to embed Google Docs, Google Forms, M+ Box, and Google Group content within a Google site page. So we're going to jump into a demo. The URL for the demo site is listed on your screen. Please note the courier so you can see the letters. Capitalization is important when you type in that URL. So those are capital I's. Play with that for today. So let's get started. Hopefully we can get through these before lightning strikes again. This is a Google site. A couple things you'll notice across the top here. There's a navigation area at the top. Many of you, or none of you, should actually see that right now. This is only available to editors, not to viewers. Only a few buttons up top here. These are local to the page, so if I click this button, I'm going to edit the page that I'm on. If I click the button next to it, it's going to walk me into the creating a new page interface. We're not going to cover that one today, but just know that it's there. And then once you're on the page, kind of keep an eye on where you're placing your page in the structure of your site. And then, of course, the catch-all settings button. This is an action menu in sites. When we click that, there's a number of commands on here. Again, we're not really going to cover a lot of these today because we're more talking about embedding content, but be aware that there's a lot of different settings in here. The one you're probably most interested in here is Manage Site. Manage Site is where you can add people, make copies, change the look and feel of your site. All kinds of settings are buried back there. Of course, if you have any help, Sites Help is down here at the bottom. Google's actually got fairly decent documentation around most of their core apps, and Sites is no exception. So if you have a question about how to do something, start there. If you want to go deeper, I would highly recommend you go to learn.googleapps.com, and there are guided tours of many of the apps that will help you learn in depth how to do pretty much everything that an app will do. But for today, right off the top, we want to talk about using Google Drive. So for each of the topics I'm talking about today, there's an individual page. Feel free to click through, look at those, and of course you'll be able to get a copy after this. So Google Drive, because it's part of the core suite of apps along with sites, there's a very, very tight integration in the way you can embed content from Drive inside your site. What you're seeing here is a folder. This is a folder that lives inside my Drive space. I've made the folder public, and that means that all the files that are inside here are actually public as well. And I've just embedded the folder, and you'll get a list of anything that's in that folder available to people who come to your site. One thing to keep in mind, and this is on the site as well, but just so I can articulate this, when you embed a folder in your site, the permission on the Drive content is independent. So just because your site may be on the internet, for instance, if you embed a Drive folder, that does not make the content in that Drive folder public on the internet. Your security in Drive is still the same in that embed as it is inside your Drive space. So just be mindful that whoever you're sharing your site with, if you're putting Drive content on that page, they also need to have access to that site content. But if you have a folder and you know the permissions are ready to go, they're public, or you have this a group for your project, for instance, you can use those synchronized groups for permissions. You can drop a page in here, or a folder in here very quickly. So I'm going to edit this page. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this. put my cursor where I want the embed to start, and I'm going to go up here to the top left of the insert menu. There's a whole bunch of options on here. One we're interested in right now is Drive, and when you hover over Drive, you see another flyout menu with lots of options. Pretty much any content type in Drive you can embed into your site page very, very quickly. For this one, we're going to choose Folder, and I'm going to get a dialog box that's going to help me find it. I happen to know this one is called HTML. I get one folder as a result. Important to note that if you want to embed the folder, you don't want to pick the folder, or click on the folder name. You want to check the checkbox here, and the select button will light up. We're going to do that. We'll get another option or another dialog box so we can set some options around the embed. If you want that border around the outside, you leave that. You can give it a special title, so I can actually change the title from the folder name to be something else. This is a public folder. Type in demo. You could also specify the height and width. If you don't specify a width, for instance, it's just going to grow to fill the available space on the page. I'm doing that as a default. I'm also going to leave it as a list type, but you can also select it to be a grid so you get those tiles. People can click on those if you want. I'm going to click Save. Because I'm still in edit mode, you'll notice that I have they call these gadgets in sites. You'll see a little shaded area indicating where the gadget is. Keep in mind, this is not necessarily reflective of how big the gadget will be once the page is saved, but it is just showing you basically where it's going to be positioned on the page. Click Save, and hopefully everything looks exactly as it was before, except for now it's called Public Folder. You can click on any of these file types. So, for instance, this is just an HTML page. I can click on that. It's going to open a new tab, and I can see the markup for that HTML site, or page, excuse me. Nothing too big. I do have a dubstep song sitting back there if you want to click on that. If you need to, and you just don't like the interface on the embed, at the bottom of the folder, or excuse me, at the bottom of the gadget, you'll notice a link that says open and then the name that you gave it, that in this case is public folder. If I click that, it's going to send me to Drive directly. And I can see those pages again. If I want to go even further, I can click Open Drive, and it's going to give me my full Google Drive interface along with that. So I can get my right-click menus, I can download things, I can edit this. If it were a doc file or a document, I could edit that, for instance. So it lets people get to your content very quickly. This is really handy, for instance, on a project, a big project or a medium project, or maybe even a small project with lots of documents. If you have lots and lots of folders that people need easy access to, but maybe they're in different locations, maybe somebody at a different school has a folder of requirements, and you've got a different folder here in ITS. You could have one page with multiple things embedded, or multiple folders embedded on it, so folks in the project come to one place to find all that content. It doesn't matter where it's stored, it's all organized as part of sites. Yes, question?
Lark says, yay, thanks, this makes me happy already.
My work here is done.
Let's stop it as for questions.
Okay, yeah, we'll just take a little break here a second and see if anybody has other questions. I've been talking kind of quickly. Also gives me a chance to have a little sip of water. Okay, we'll hold on for a question. While we're waiting, I highly encourage everybody to go to the record today. Today is President Schlüssel's first day on the job, and there's a really nice interview with the record on it today. So welcome President Schlüssel. Hold him praise him.
Is there a way to develop to see if you? Is there a way to develop to see if you're not sure how you want things to look?
Is there a way to develop to make sure
If
things?
you're not sure. To
So
see what you're doing.
So kind of a preview of what my edit looks like at that particular moment. No, not necessarily. I'm familiar with Dreamweaver. You're not going to be able to, on the fly, generate what the page looks like at this particular moment before I actually click the save button. The nice thing is you can always go back and revert. So each page has a revision history.
Oh, good.
Where is this?
That's another question. Can you undo it?
So yeah. So for instance, I just change. If you go to this action menu, the very first first item is revision history. When you click that, you're going to go to a list of the version for that particular page, and you can very easily revert to a previous version if you want to.
Cool.
But yeah, as far as like a development, I think I understand where that's coming from. It doesn't really have, it's not a desktop website there, so there are a few trade-offs. And that's a live preview is one of those. The same embed philosophy applies to documents well as it does folders. This is a Google Doc that Google provided to us for all the things that changed in June. If you want to share just one document, folks, you can embed. This one you're seeing is a multi-page document. This is a pretty complex document, and it's got animated GIFs, it's got lots of layouts, it's got all kinds of things going on, and all of that works in the embed. So you don't actually have to point people to the document itself. You can plop it right on the page, and they can see it there. Yes, another question.
What are the limitations of Drive when you're not logged into Google?
If you're not, so the limitations of Drive if you're not logged into Google are basically you have to make the document or folder public. So when you're in Drive and you're looking at settings, so if we go here, we'll look at the settings on this particular, the presentation we looked at, excuse me. So at the very top here is the global permission setting for any document type. This applies to presentation, sheets, docs, PDFs, everything that you could put in there. By default, it's private to only the people you list. Because I created this and I haven't shared it out, I'm the only person who could see this document right now. If I want to change that, I click that link, and hopefully you've seen this before. If you haven't chosen either of the two top options here, a person who's not logged into Drive will not be able to see the content. So from University of Michigan down, you're going to be required to be logged in, and you're also going to be required to be logged in with a university account. So even if they have a Drive account on a Gmail account, for instance, a Google, so these three options, the bottom three, you have to be logged into a University of Michigan M+ Google account. If you have someone at the university who uses a Gmail account for business, and we know a lot of folks do that, you shouldn't do that, but if you do, you are not going to be able to use the bottom three settings to share content with those folks. They're going to have to be up here, or you're going to have to list them individually with their Gmail account. Hope that addressed the question. If not, please let us know in the chat, and I'm happy to cover that in more detail. But back to the embed, if we go back down to the bottom of this page, we can put a new item here. So let's say new sheet, embed. Also, because it's Google product and Google loves shortcuts, there's also shortcuts for formatting. I'm on a Mac, I'm going to do Command, but Control works on Windows. Command 2 sets it as a heading 2. Always use headings. Don't bold and change the font type. If you use headings, that actually puts the proper tag, HTML tag around that, and that helps people with screen readers and gives some semantic markup to the page, divorcing the content from the formatting. So always use the headings. If you don't like shortcuts, you can go up here to Format and select the appropriate heading level. All right. Let's insert another document. So I'm going to go back to my Insert menu. I'm going to hover over Drive, and let's pick, well, let's see if I have a drawing. Oh, let's do a presentation because I don't know if I have a drawing. So I chose presentation, and you'll notice that there's a bunch of the same items are along the left-hand side. It's just applying a filter to the content you have inside your Drive space. If I accidentally chose presentation and really I wanted to do a drawing, I can just pick that. It's going to update the filter. I have lots of drawings. I didn't realize that. So let's go back. Let's look at presentations, and we'll embed the presentation you saw earlier. Check that box. Click Select. And I get my dialog where I can set some options here. With presentations, you'll see a different option that you can actually have the slideshow player load. I'm not going to do that because we're not going to go through it. You can select the size. Let's make this really big because I want people to be able to read our slides. And we'll click Save. And there's that gadget again. We'll click Save for the page. And there's my presentation. And you have a nice little interface. People can step through that if they want. of the things a lot of folks use is Google Forms. Google Forms, of course, is a great way to get a quick and dirty survey out if you need to. Everything from where do you want to go to lunch to how do you like our product. Sometimes typically we see people sending out links to forms. That's great if you're sending out an email campaign. But sometimes you have something else like a feedback form, or you want people to come to your site directly because you have, let's say, analytics on your page and you want to see who's coming to your form. You can embed the form directly into a Google site page. This is, if anybody's seen my other demos, I have kind of a silly breakfast choices form that we use, and I've embedded this directly into this Google site. This particular form has some branching logic behind it. If I choose one of these options that goes to a different page, you'll notice that with the embed, that branching works just fine within this page. There's no need to send people directly to the web for this, or sorry, to the web form for this. As you probably have guessed at this point, embedding a form is pretty easy. I can just go to Insert Menu, Drive, Form, and I can choose the form that I want. I don't actually know what these are. We'll do breakfast choices again. And of course you have this dialog box where you can specify the height and width. You may have to play with this a little bit. It doesn't try to auto size or anything special like that. You'll notice I'll cancel out of here because I don't need to put it twice. I made some changes. It's prompting me to make sure I actually wanted to toss the changes. I do. You'll notice with this form, the form isn't nearly as long as this embed is high. But you can play with that if you want to. Questions? All right. Groups. For those of you who are part of the Collab Forum is a Google group, and groups are also one of those things we use a lot on campus. Sometimes it's a little hard to find, especially if you participate in a lot of groups. If you are trying to administer a group related to a site, you can embed the group directly into your Google site. Again, because this is a Google product and there's lots of integrations, this is pretty quick. We can do Insert Group. One thing to keep in mind for this to work, you will need to know the URL of the group you're embedding. I don't have it in particular, but you would be required to paste that group name right here. To get that URL, just go to the front page of the group and copy the URL from your address bar. And then there are, of course, the same familiar options available here for configuring the appearance of the embed on your page. I would recommend, if you're embedding a group in particular, having a page with not a lot of other content and letting the group width be 100%. Groups tend to be long threads of discussions, so letting that text spread out and letting folks have as much real estate on their monitor as they have is a good usability trick. Make this as high as possible, but don't make it too high. A lot of folks now have wide screen monitors, so be respectful of using the width and trying not to go too high. This one actually has a preview, which is kind of nice. You'll notice those on some others. This is, I didn't put URL in here, so that won't work. We'll cancel that. But if I go into the configuration on this, so what I did for that, sorry, let me back up. Once you have a gadget on here and you want to tweak the settings on the gadget that's in the page, you have to go into edit mode. Once you're there, you'll see that gray area where the gadget lives. Click on it anywhere and you'll get a little menu. You'll see a number of little icons up here. The leftmost one is the properties, so you can adjust the properties on it. You can also change the alignment of the gadget itself. I think a lot of them, by default, they align to the left side of the area where they've been embedded. If you want to center it, you can do that as well, or if you want to move it to the right side, you can do that. I would recommend align left, just generally it looks cleaner, it lets people scan. You can also change the way that text wraps or doesn't around a gadget, so this is particularly helpful if you have a lot of images or a page with a lot of text and you want text to flow around the item that you're embedding into the page. You can have that text wrap around the object. You can kind of see it in the icon there where it wraps around. For most of these, though, I think you're going to want to have the text not wrap. You want it above and below the gadget that you're working with, and that is the option. And if you need to remove it, you can click this X, and it'll pull all of the gadget information out of your page. For this one, I'm going to click the properties, and I can go in here and tweak all of these things to my heart's desire. Maybe I don't like it at 600 pixels, so we'll make it 500, and then I can preview it to see what it looks like. This isn't terribly helpful because it's not actually in the page, but you can see how the gadget looks. And then you can save it. And there you go. I'm looking over questions. No questions? All right, we'll keep plowing on. So far, all we've talked about really are Google products, Google apps, and embedding those into sites. Obviously, that works fairly well for most Google products. They talk to each other. But you're not limited to that, of course. You can embed things like Mbox. I am not logged in, so we'll go through a login thing. For Mbox, there's a little bit of a couple things you have to do. First of all, you're going to have to go to box.it.umich.edu and make sure you're signed in, because I'm not. I like doing this live. And also, if you don't have an account, I highly recommend getting an M+Box account. You can do lots and lots of stuff in Box, tons of storage, lots of sharing options, email into folders, good stuff. That'll be in September. If you have any questions, contact the service desk or Mary Beth Stokel, and she would all be happy to talk to you about Box. For this demo, I have a public folder here. Same sort of rules apply for Box embeds as they do for Drive folders. The security on the Box folder is in Box. It's not on your Google site. Your site could be public, but if your folder in Box is restricted, those restrictions stay in place even if you embed it in the site. So make sure the folks that have to see the content have permission to see it. This particular folder is set to be public, so all the content in here is freely available on the internet. You gotta know where it is. To do an embed in Box, you need to open Box first and go to the folder that you want to share. So in this particular case, I've gone to my public folder here, and I want to go to the More menu, and then I'm going to go to Share, and then there's a link right here that says Embed into your site. And when I click that, I'm going to get a dialog box. There's a lot of options here. I'm not going to cover those right now. What we're really interested in down here is this embed code. This is what's going to allow us to put it into the Google site page. So I'm going to click this copy to clipboard and put all of that on my clipboard. I'll close this because we're done with it. We're going to go down here and I'm going to edit this page. And I'm going to remove this. Now with Box, because it's coming from an outside site or an outside source, we have to kind of go a little bit deeper into Google Sites configuration options, and we're going to directly edit the HTML for not the page, but the section where our cursor is. Very important to note that if you have a multi-column layout, you have multiple sections on your page, when you click the HTML button, which is right here, you're editing the HTML for that section, not for the entire page. Make sure that your cursor is in the place where you want your embed to be. In this particular case, I'm in the only section on the page. I'm going to click this HTML button here on the toolbar, and I'm going to get an editor where I can directly edit HTML for that section. Now I know that I want this embed to be right here after that div, and it's on my clipboard, so I'm just going to paste that directly in there, and you'll see that this is a link to box.com, and don't have to worry about all that just right now. I'm going to click Update. We'll see that same Google Gadget interface. You can actually do this as a regular gadget as well if you want to, once it's in there. But now that it's in there, I'm going to click Save. It's going to refresh the page. And Box has one little additional security measure. When you come onto a page with a Box embed, you'll see this little cloud icon. It'll be in a different position every time you load the page, but just click and drag that onto the emboss, and it will unlock the folder, and now you have access to all of that content on that page. Questions coming in at all? And again, you can click on all these things. It's going to load right in there. If you want, you can make this full screen. You can zoom. This is one of those times I want to maximize the embed size. Click my editor here. Now click my properties, and I want this to be 100%, which probably would have been better. I'll make this just big because it's documents. I'll say OK and save it. And here you'll see it got significantly larger, and you'll notice this cloud has moved, so I have to drag it in here. And now I have a little bit bigger interface to work with, so I can click things and preview them, page through them. This is pretty good about generating previews. If it's not fast enough for you, or the preview, it can't generate the preview because the file is too large, you can always download the content. This is a video, for instance. I won't play it because I'm not exactly sure what will happen with the audio, but you can watch videos directly in the embed. And of course, you can always download things if you need to. Oops. Okay, if there's no questions, I'm assuming that's pretty straightforward. Oops. And then, of course, videos. There's a number of ways to host videos on your Google site. You can link directly to a Google video hosted in your drive space. This would work for Box as well, but if you have the URL directly to it, it's just a straight hyperlink to that. If the video is stored in Drive, you can embed directly on your page. If you use Insert Drive Video, that video will show up on the page as an embed. Probably should not have done that. We'll turn the audio off. You can watch that video directly in here. You have full screen controls. This is a high def video, so you get all that fidelity if you want to. You can also dial it back if you need the bandwidth. But this is hosted in my drive space, for instance. Or actually, I think this is hosted in Google's drive space. But you can embed the video directly. You'll notice the player looks very, very familiar. If you've ever gone to YouTube, no one should have any trouble figuring out how to use the video. And of course, you can embed YouTube videos directly. All of these are menu items. If you go to Insert, Drive, Video, you can pull any video out of your drive space and embed it onto a site. If you're looking for something in YouTube, YouTube has its own option. You will need the URL of the video. There's no search interface for this, but you can copy and paste that URL from either the address bar or the share dialog box if you're looking at a YouTube video. And then you can configure a lot of options on that. The video size is probably the one most folks are looking at. I don't like the borders. We can clip that. And we can make that really large. Yes?
How do we copy the demo page?
So you won't be able to do it right now until I open up the site, but when you have access, we're going to go to this action menu, go to Manage Site, and on this first page when you click Manage Site, there's a Copy This Site button. You click that, it's going to ask you for a new site name. You can name it whatever you want. I would recommend your unique name and Inbox or Playground or something like that so you know that it's not a live site. As you type it in, Sites is going to try and generate a URL down here. It's going to make sure that it's unique, so you may, if you somehow guess somebody else's site, you'll see numbers or unique characters start showing up in there. I would recommend not including revisions, so leave this cleared and then clearing these two items. There shouldn't be any page comments, but if you leave these intact and you copy over a site that someone else has created, for instance, and they've shared it with a number of others, all of those people would come along into your Playground site. It's not so much that they can mess around with the content on your site, is that it's confusing when they see a site that looks very familiar to a live site that they're working with. Yes, another question.
Do you have any sites that I could look at as good examples of simple and complex sites within and outside of UM?
Simple and complex, I'm assuming not at the same time.
We might have to add that later.
Yeah, I may have to add a page here with example sites. What I can show you is my site. So I have a personal site in Google Sites, the word kind of gets reused a lot. And I just have a really basic front page of who I am, what I do, how to get a hold of me. I have started kind of a link farm because I'm part of a lot of projects in varying levels of effort, and I don't remember where things are. So I use Google Sites to organize where those things are. This is a project site for a project that's closing down here. This was the Part 2 project for Google, for collaboration, so Google and Box. This is based on a project, so the project manager made this, and sorry if you didn't expect me to show this off today, but this is, I would call this pretty simple in terms of the items that are on here, but I think that's what we were aiming for. We didn't want a lot of complexity. We wanted very easy visuals. The big one on that is the left-hand Christmas tree, so you can get a really quick view of the project health. Each of the work streams has its own tab, so we can click through that. Okay. And again, this is very flexible. You can do lots of things. Feel free to explore. If you have any questions, please contact For Help. We're more than happy to help you with access or any kind of productivity questions you might have.
Yeah, if you could add some examples to.
Yeah, I can do that. I will do that. I will add a new page on this site with examples of other sites that I'm aware of. So, and since we're out of time, I'm going to turn it back over to Jean.
Great.
Oh, I just bumped that. Sorry.
All right, thank you, Ryan. Get back here, stop sharing, get back to my power. Okay. So, M plus Google webpage and the UM collaboration forum, which is the group that Ryan embedded in his site. Just a reminder that today's recording and slides will be on the IT4U page in my link and also on the Next Gen Michigan webinar page. If you're not on my list to get notifications of upcoming webinars, you can sign up right here, and if you need more help, you can always get to us through the Service Center. Thank you very much. We're going to stop the recording now, and if you're here live, please stick around for some feedback.